founders. Like we just remember emotionally and what it's like to be in the founder seat. And so we often ask harder questions. Just because we held the reins ourselves. And I always joke, being an investor where you've never built anything and actually carried the weight of the stress of like your team's salaries and how are you going to make sure they can pay their bills and just that extreme responsibility. It's almost like giving parenting advice. If you've never had kids, like you probably shouldn't do it in my mind. And I think it's just a really different feeling. Like you just know to trust the founders because they see all and they are in it in a way that I think is really important.
Wow. That's super compelling. And I will not be giving parents advice or founders advice, given that I haven't necessarily walked in their shoes yet. As you know, SoGal and SheWorx are curating 70 different opportunities today for women founders to be pitching investors. And you've already talked a little bit about kind of the trying and the having the deck and leading with what's important to you. But I'm curious to hear if you have specific advice for those that are going to pitch today and what you'd share with them.
I would just say the obvious things, which is, first of all, I always say 90% of fundraising happens before you pitch. It's getting your materials prepared, knowing your strategy, having your ducks in a row in terms of your numbers, knowing them cold. Preparation is everything. And so truly 90% of what goes into a good pitch is just being extremely prepared for. And so my explicit advice is I used to tell people, ask your 5 smartest friends. All of us know who our 5 smartest friends are. Go find them. Say, can you give me an hour? I want to pitch you through my materials, and just ask them to give you the hardest, most brutal feedback. Because guess what? Those questions that they ask, at least 3 to 5 of them will come up. And then you should make appendix slides of those questions and how you would answer them. And I think one of the things as an investor that I know is when a founder is not that prepared. Like when you ask obvious questions and they don't have extremely detailed answers, not just like, oh, we would do this, but we would do this. And we've already contacted this person and done these things to put that in motion. And here's why. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for a founder who's, truly more prepared than anybody else. And so get prepared.
I love that idea of getting the top 5 questions and adding them to the appendix of the deck, just to say that you've already kind of thought through that. I think that's really compelling advice. I was curious, shifting gears a little bit. We're here because we're interested in supporting women and investing in women. I'm curious, in your career's journey, if there's been women that you've found to be really important investors in you, either financially or personally.
I mean, not only absolutely, like I am here because of a few women went out of their way to mentor me and help me. And in fact, literally my next door neighbor was my board member, and I moved next to her because she became a dear lifelong friend. But she was one of the first female partners at Goldman Sachs. She was my first angel investor in LearnVest. And she just took me under her wing in like the most important way and really was a huge advocate for me. So I am here because a few women went out of their way, which is also why I always tell people, do message me, again, just at Alexa Von Tobel. I try to go out of my way to, like, if I can send a 2-minute email or answer one quick question that like helps you in any way, I'm absolutely here because other people took care of me and invested in me. So the answer is not only yes, but they have become some of my lifelong friends too.
Actually, it's kind of funny that you say that. When I first met you 10 years ago, we were at a Tory Burch Foundation event for women entrepreneurs. And I remember you giving me your card and saying, email me. Like, I remember how open you were at that time. So it's really cool to hear that drumbeat has stayed alive for you in your journey as you've kind of grown and blossomed. I think that empathy and that giving nature that you're talking about in that context has shown up in what you've established to be one of your core personal missions around helping people make progress financially. I'm curious, how you got to that point, but more so as a citizen investor, right? Like there's all these different tools that people can use and pick up as individual unaccredited investors. Like, how did you start your learning journey into becoming a professional investor? And how did that unfold for you? Why is this your core mission, or why did this become one of your core missions? Start like taking yourself back to knowing nothing about investing.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I think I was like an investor early. In high school, I was focused on learning about money. Out of college, I got many very high profile investing jobs, including working at a venture fund. So I was always very interested in it. I was always very interested in my own personal investing. And so I loved it. And then this category of investing where you're helping people build businesses and whether or not they have the staying power and the grit and the tenacity, literally, I've joked to my husband, I would do this for free. So I should definitely do it for a living because I love it so much. And I think there's this old, my mom used to tell me growing up, like, love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I actually joked with her recently that it's the exact opposite. Love what you do, you will work every single day of your life with no boundaries, and take things so personally because you care so much. And so I really, really love what I'm doing. And I love this job. And so, I'm an investor with early stage startups. It's like combined two things that I love together. And it's just a blast. And you also get to see the future, which is pretty fun to do.
That's interesting. Say more about that.
I mean, all day long, each week you'll see dozens of founders pitching you on their big idea of the future. And so all day long, my job is to live 10 years out and think about which ideas are very, very obvious. But, maybe not obvious today, but will be very obvious in 10 years. And so you kind of have to force yourself to think 10 years ahead every day.
This wasn't my planned question for you, but I'm super curious to know, Alexa, 10 years from now, and like, what are you thinking about? What are you most excited about for 10 years from now?
I mean, what's amazing is 10 years from now, so much of the world is going to be better. And what I mean by that is as AI and machine learning take over and every device can be smart and your home can be smart and your car can be smart, we're going to look back and be like, wow, I can't believe that, you had to think about X, Y, or Z. And the same way that like my mom grocery shopped 20 years ago, every Saturday for 2.5 hours, now it shows up in my door in, 20 minutes and I didn't have to think about it. And I could do it in 1 minute just from repurchase last week's orders, those sort of incredible things. I think telemedicine, we're going to see explosions for our ability to get access over Zoom and our DNA is out there and that's a data source. And we're going to see medicine perfectly described for us because of who our DNA is. That's going to be more effective. We're going to be able to think about genes that we don't want to pay it forward to our kids because we can take them out so you don't pass on illnesses. There's just so much coming around the wallet. I think we'll see self-driving wallets where your wallet actually heals and takes care of itself. So it's really exciting. There's obviously a lot of ethical questions and things like that we have to be really thoughtful about, and fraud and security and all of those sort of things. But it's I would say, very bright future, also focused on taking care of our planet.
Cool. I have one more question and then we'll turn it over to the audience who's been peppering us with lots of questions too. When I met you, I was in my early 20s, and one of my personal mantras that got me through that time was fake it till you make it. I'm curious if you have any personal mantras or practices that have been important for you for staying grounded or motivated or confident or whatever it was that you needed or you continue to need as you go through this career.
Yeah, I have two mantras. They're both my own. They're really simple. The first is one of my favorites, which is get up, dress up, show up, which is get up early every day, get dressed, put yourself together, you feel better, and just show up with a great attitude. And I think positive attitudes are one of these things that people just don't actually realize how important they are. Everybody wants to be around positive people. If you're negative Nancy all day long, nobody wants to be with you. You're not going to attract anybody to come help you. Like, get rid of your bad attitude. And I really have very little, that is one of those things I have very little patience for. And then the second thing is just one day at a time. You can do anything if you just take everything one day at a time. If you're trying to climb a massive mountain, it's really emotionally overwhelming, as opposed to just getting in the work and taking everything one day at a time, and each day getting stronger, each day getting better, each day building your vision a bit bigger. And it just, not only is it like burned into my soul, just one day at a time. And like some days suck and can end at 3 p.m. and you can be like, I am done working today because so many things went wrong and I just need to be human and go to sleep early, take care of myself. And you can start the next day, but each day when you show up, you have to show up with 150%.
What was it? Get up, dress up, and show up. And get up and dress up preferably in your happy sweatshirt so that everyone knows about your positive attitude. Cool. Let's hop over to the chat. And I'm going to just scroll. How do you assess when a startup is competitive to an existing portfolio company? When do you give up on a poorly performing portfolio company that's shutting you out of a hot category?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we try to be really thoughtful about competitive companies, and keep in mind, no worries. Keep in mind that sometimes companies pivot and move into other directions. So luckily, we've yet to have a problem with competitive companies. But we're always really transparent with the CEO. We'll go and say, hey, we're looking at this idea. Do you think this is in any way competitive? And ask them if they are like, yes, here's why. Then we obviously don't talk to that company. And if they're like, no problem, then in many ways, we're actually like, come, get involved, be an advisor, help this company because an adjacent category to it. And then when do we give up on a founder? We recently had a company that literally had like a decent sized medium exit. And for a variety of reasons, we thought that was the best decision for the company. And my point there is, we don't give up on any founder. You also remember building businesses, you're really spending a decade to build it. It takes a long time. And I think, so the answer is we don't give up on any founder. I also think founders can hit rough patches and then come out of them and build majorly successful businesses. So it's actually the grit and tenacity of a founder, that commitment that makes or breaks a business. And so unless the founder is giving up, that's when I would probably say, okay, we should probably give up on this company. But we're not going to give up on a company until the founder decides that they're thrown in the hat.
I think to that end, there's an interesting question. If you're not having much traction yet because you're still finding product market fit, what are some ways to fundraise? This gets to your point around not giving up.
Yeah, it's really, you've got to find product market fit. You've got to, so that you could fundraise without having product market fit if you knew what product market fit was. If you could say, here is what product market fit is, and I need money to go build it. That's the way to do that, as opposed to pretending like you have it. Investors are really, really good at their jobs. They will know, like, the data isn't there, the open rates aren't there, the connectivity isn't there, the users aren't coming back. So you need to know what you want to build to go get product market fit.
When you were raising for LearnVest, were there venture opportunities or investment opportunities that you turned down? And what were some of the underpinning reasons for saying no?
Yeah. There were a few investors that I just didn't feel like I wanted to be married to be honest. Like in a few moments we were oversubscribed, had many, many, many term sheets. And I just said to myself, I don't really want to work with this person, mainly because I was like, I need full psychological safety where I can admit my failures, admit what's not great, get better. I just don't feel like this person is somebody I want to work with. So I always tell people, find an investor where you feel like you can like let all your guards down. You can be your whole self, because your whole self is going to have to keep getting better. And if you can't have that vulnerability with the person, showing up feeling like you're walking on eggshells with somebody, you're never going to get where you want to get. So I think that's really important.
It's fascinating to hear you use the word psychological safety with an investor, but I think this really does point back to what you're talking about too, in terms of that two-way conversation between investor and founder and how you're cultivating this long-term relationship with each other. Yeah, someone says truly like a good marriage. And I think, I've heard venture investing compared to dating before, and I don't think it's so far off. Let's see. Lots of questions coming in. Thank you, everyone. We have one question from the investors rejected us several months ago because we were too early. Now we have revenue, clients, and partnerships. What's the best way to circle back to investors and get those meetings?
I mean, I think if just this is so like mother's milk and apple pie, and I am Southern, so I'm like a nice Southern girl. Just build genuine relationships with people. Don't approach investor meetings as transactional. Approach them for who the people are. Hey, I would love your advice. I know you're really good at this thing. Do you mind helping me? I would love your input. Investors want to feel like you're in a learning mindset, a getting better mindset. And so approach investors in that regard. You can say, I'm not fundraising right now. I just want to really get to know you. And I want you to better understand what I'm trying to accomplish. And like, they're going to like that too. They want more data points. They want more touch points, getting to know you, et cetera.
Cool. So investing has changed a lot from the early days from when you were helping people through LearnVest, think about different investment opportunities. There's NFTs, there's crypto, there's crowd equity. Kind of, if you could do it again and think about like the ways that you'd be incorporating some of these new types of investment structures, I'm just super curious to hear your take on them and how they might fit into a portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, we look at everything. My second book was called Financially Forward. You can get it on Amazon, and it's about the future of your wallet and where you're headed and all of the amazing things with crypto and really helping make that make sense to people. So in general, I believe in digital assets. I think it's just the obvious next evolution. That said, it will take a while. And by a while, I mean a long while. Probably 2 decades to really become, think about it. We still use cash despite having credit cards and all of the, right? And cash, the numbers of cash go down a little bit every year, but that's over a very long tail. So in general, I'm very bullish on digital currencies, digital assets. Everything is going to move into an easier way for us to function and track and safety and security. There's going to be lots of problems while that happens, because you can imagine any big innovation cycle comes with pros and cons. But that's a little bit of how we think about them. And it's definitely something that we look at investing in at Inspired Capital. And, you know, for all great entrepreneurs out there, come pitch us at Inspired. We're seed series A. We always want to learn more. We have a $200 million fund, and we focus on amazing entrepreneurs across the country who want to change the world and build really special, iconic businesses.
You were a solo founder. Would you do it again solo?
I mean, I always joke, I was never really a solo founder because I had my husband, and he like absolutely was in the trenches with me every day. And honestly has learned as much about building a startup as I have. But no, you know, with Inspired, I brought on a few people I really wanted to work with. Penny Pritzker, former US Secretary of Commerce, Lucy DeLand, co-founder of Paperless Posts, and Mark Battian, an amazing guy that I'd worked with already for 10 years to build the firm with me, and added a few other amazing founders, Annie Shapiro, who had been with me for 12 plus years. So I say all of that to basically say that it's so much more fun to go it with other people and build something together. And I had the good fortune of picking some of my most favorite humans on the planet to go build Inspired with, and I will tell you it's working. So it's possible to go it alone. It's not impossible. I did it, but it's more fun with others.
Cool. And maybe we can do 1 or 2 more just to round us out and let you get on with your busy life. I like this question. I'm curious, or the asker is curious, if there's something that you feel you failed at, and what was it, and how did you handle it?
Truly, when I say like, I think I failed every day. There's been one thing, whether it was a meeting I didn't manage properly, or a response I had where I was, you know, too frustrated, or a decision we made that I had to rewind. But I think the point is like to create an environment where you can fail upwards, which is, I think it's just so important. That I'm a big fan of psychological safety, which is, as long as we're all aware that none of us are perfect. We all have to keep getting better. I think you can become a much better person and a much better, a better version of yourself. So the headline of that is it's not even like a number. It's like every single day, there's just been something that, and I'll say as a result, I've gotten much better. And I feel like I've learned those own learnings just by recognizing that we do a lot of retrospectives. What could we have done better? Where did we maybe make the wrong call?
So fail all the time and face failure, it sounds like.
Yes.
Great. Well, I want to just thank you again, Alexa, and give you the moment for any parting words that you might have for all the founders and listeners in this call.
No, I just want to first say, I'll end by saying you only get to live once. It's not the dress rehearsal of your life. This is your life. So swing big and go for it. And really just remember to believe in yourself. I know it's corny and cheesy, but I've learned to bet on myself over and over again. And it's a great decision. And it definitely comes with some nerves and some sleepless nights, but it's a really rewarding one. So good luck, everybody.
Thank you so much.